Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to my Capstone Symposium presentation. My name is Christofferson, and the title of my project is Sustainability and Business, Can Renewable Energy and Fashion Retail Go Hand in Hand? For this project, I interned with Nordstrom and supported them primarily with renewable energy procurement. This project really originated out of the damage that greenhouse gases create, as they're the leading cause of the climate crisis. Because I worked with Nordstrom, a fashion retailer, I really want to look at kind of that intersection between the two. And so fashion retailers actually play a large role in the world of greenhouse gas emissions. In fact, the fashion industry as a whole is responsible for 8 to 10% of all greenhouse gas emissions globally. An impactful way for these fashion retailers to lower their emissions would be to implement renewable energy, but this does not come without its challenges. Therefore, this project aims to address and explore frameworks that fashion retail companies can use to adopt renewable energy. My research question was what are the barriers and best practices to renewable energy implementation in fashion retail? My methods that I used to answer my research question were conducting interviews with internal stakeholders in order to understand and identify the perceived barriers surrounding renewable energy implementation in fashion retail. I also performed a literature review, which essentially looked at renewable energy implementation in the general sense, not specifically to one industry. And then I also incorporated my hands-on experience while working at Nordstrom. And so while I did work at Nordstrom, I was within the corporate social responsibility department, or the CSR team. And I worked under the pillar of sustainability. There are 3 pillars: human rights, philanthropy, and environmental sustainability. I also worked with the facilities department. This is where I did a lot of my renewable energy procurement work. So this is what was most applicable to my research. Looking to the kind of center of my poster, I have the first component of my results, which would be from the interviews. These speech bubbles highlight important sentiments taken from stakeholder interviews. These were really important in verifying and supporting my firsthand experience at the company. Moving down, you can kind of take a look at my primary findings for the barriers and best practices for renewable energy implementation in fashion retail. These barriers are economic feasibility, communication and support internally, the lack of proper infrastructure for total RE or renewable energy reliance, company bandwidth, and time constraints. The corresponding best practices for these barriers are as follows. To improve economic feasibility, it's important to identify and employ financial incentives. So these can be in the form of tax incentives, rebates, grants, etc. Another way to increase economic feasibility is to participate in community energy programs. So if you look to the far right of the poster, up at the top, there's a picture of a community solar field. This is something that I would recommend participating in order to kind of alleviate that barrier. To increase communication and internal support, appointing a high-level sponsor for renewable energy at the company would be really important. This streamlines the process for approval and communication by placing a person in senior leadership at kind of the head of these projects. Another thing that companies can do is improve their energy efficiency measures in their operations. This over time helps build a better business case for the necessity of renewable energy, and thus you have more internal support for those projects. And then for the lack of proper infrastructure, companies can invest in renewable energy credits. Renewable energy credits is essentially where a company purchases 1 megawatt hour of electricity produced through renewable sources. And this electricity is not used by the company, but sent right back into the grid. So over time, it's shown that this will then decrease the cost of renewable energy for everyone, and will also allow for the expansion of renewable energy infrastructure because there's that investment there. And then finally, similarly to the lack of support internally, company bandwidth can be improved by recruiting a high-level sponsor for this work. And then finally, moving over to the implications and broader significance of this work, this research provides Nordstrom and other fashion retailers with the information as seen in Table 1, which can be used to develop a streamlined and uniform process to adopt renewable energy. With this framework in place, the implementation will lower Scope 1 and 2 emissions for fashion retailers, bring them closer to their science-based targets, will align them with international guidance as a form of sustainability due diligence. And then another significant component of this work is that the development of this framework and later application engages in the customer's desires to shop with fashion retailers which employ sustainable practices. So it's seen actually in the State of Consumer Spending report that Gen Z customers noted that sustainability is more important than a brand name when they are shopping. Gen Z has also been shown to be influential and are actually influencing older generations to shop more sustainably as well. So all of this works towards increasing these fashion retailers' customer bases, which results in the improvement of these companies' financials. So kind of there are two big components, the implications of this work. One, you have the implementation of renewable energy, which is great for the environment, but you also have a business benefit for these companies because there is that trend of moving towards more sustainable practices. There's still a long way to go in order to have the true widespread renewable energy adoption in fashion retail, but these are the components we must prioritize in order to get there. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and I would like to acknowledge my faculty advisor, Professor Wang, my site supervisor, Rima Mehta, my supervisor in facilities, Anushri, the CSR team, the interview participants, and my friends and family for their support. Thank you.